So let's talk about the Oneplus X. Came with a bang and created a lot of craze in the markets, but the big question is, was it really worth that craziness? I was among the lucky ones to get the invites of the Oneplus X on the day of its launch itself, so I went ahead and decided to give this phone a try. Now I have been using this phone for many days and let's see if it stacks up to your expectations. Generally, you don't look at the Oneplus X as a Oneplus X, you look at it as if it's an Apple product. Try and recall the iPhone 4 or 4S or even the 5. Or else, a Sony Xperia Z series phone. But literally, it's more like a compact OnePlus One in a smaller body and an upgraded AMOLED screen, 8MP front camera running on Oxygen OS instead of Cyanogen. There's not a lot of difference between the two. Looking at the specs, we have a 2.3 GHz quad-core Snapdragon 801 processor, 3 GB of RAM, 5 inches FHD AMOLED display, 2525 mAh battery, 16 GB of internal storage and the option to expand it up to 128 GB via a micro SD card with the help of a hybrid SIM slot. So it can be used as a dual SIM device too. What is the basic need of a phone for you or anyone? Making calls, sending messages and using the internet, right? Well, as far as those are concerned, Oneplus X has got you all covered and secured with the high quality mic and earpiece along with Wi-Fi connectivity and 4G. The only issues with the Wi-Fi part is that it doesn't recognize a 5 GHz Wi-Fi band but only the 2.4 GHz one. OnePlus X has some kind of bug that displays the wrong carrier name in the settings and even on the lock screen. I personally use an Idea SIM, a 3G Idea SIM, but the name that was portrayed on the lock screen and the settings was Idea 2G, Idea 3G and also sometimes Vodafone 3G. I don't know if it's going to be a big problem while making calls. Personally, I didn't have any problems, but I had to get this minute detail to you. Now let's get a little complex. The 2.3 GHz Snapdragon 801 processor was a great processor back in the day, but considering the price of the device, it's quite a bit to have. Heavy games are not buttery smooth here, but casual games really are. Small games work very well on the device, but when it comes to heavy games like Injustice or Dead Trigger 2, you might start experiencing a little lagginess or a few frame drops here and there, but for the most part, it's just smooth. There were a few things about the device that are really well appreciated, such as the signature OnePlus off-screen gestures, a pre-installed screen guard, the sweetness of Oxygen OS and so on. A flaw here again is that the double tap the status bar to turn off screen doesn't work when you have truly unlocked the device, whereas it only works on the lock screen itself. And that needs to be fixed because many out there are now habitual of using such a feature. Now let's talk about the design for a moment. The front and the back is straight up glass and there is no plastic whatsoever. The entire phone is secured by Gorilla Glass 3s and the sides and the edges of the phone are all metal. The metal sides have micro cuts onto them that gives them a very grippy texture to the phone and does make it feel very compact. It definitely feels very thin in the hand, and the glass on the other hand makes the phone very slippery and will give you the fear of dropping the phone. The majority glass makes the phone very slippery. I tried finding some cases or skins for the device but no luck. Now however, in mid-November, D-Brand is up with skins for OnePlus X and OnePlus Store now has all the cases in stock. The back this time is not removable at all. It was difficult to remove the back of the OnePlus One, easy on the OnePlus 2 and just impossible on the OnePlus X. The speakers, however, are unexpectedly not disappointing in terms of sound. The sound coming out of the speaker is very loud. The only problem is that only one speaker is actually a multimedia speaker and the other grill stands for being a mic for the calls. The multimedia speaker, however, can easily be covered by a finger while gaming. But you're good to go when your phone's placed on a flat surface. The button placement is the same from the previous OnePlus 2. The power button and the volume keys reside on the right hand side, whereas the notification slider, aka the nail filer, resides on the left hand side. Just between the speakers we have a micro USB port for charging the device. The phone doesn't support fast charging and it takes a lot of time to charge up. The battery life of the device is somewhere between good and average. You might be able to get about 4 hours of screen on time with the phone with light gaming and light usage, but with heavy usage you just might be able to sneak out 3 hours of SOT. While speaking of heavy usage, it's worth mentioning that the phone does start to get just a little warm at the back near the camera, and since the sides are all metal, they conduct the warmth to the sides of the phone very easily. It doesn't heat at all, and the temperatures were quite acceptable. It's not something major to worry about though, but it's a very minute detail that I had to get to you guys. On idle, the phone used to lose a charge of about 11% in 8 hours initially, which might be a thing to worry about, but surprisingly later, the idle performance went way better. I spent around 3 days without charging and still had a lot of juice left. However, there was a little bit of usage in that period. The screen of the device is worth mentioning. Having an AMOLED on such a phone is always welcome, giving us the best color reproduction of all times. However, the only place where I found the colors of the X not performing good were the whites. Comparing it to my Oneplus One having an IPS 1080p panel, the Oneplus X has a yellowish tint in white areas. Keeping the Oneplus X side by side with my Oneplus One, the screen on the Oneplus One seemed better in a few areas, but in the majority of the areas, the Oneplus X's screen felt way better. It was quite funny looking at how good an IPS display can stack up to an AMOLED panel. Now let's get to the cameras. The legacy of a 13 megapixel back camera is running through the OnePlus family, but the OnePlus X becomes a trendsetter when it comes to having an 8 megapixel front camera. The pictures and videos from both these cameras were satisfactory and detailed. However, the low light performance of both the cameras weren't very good. The pictures came out a little grainy and just not very good. The back camera still took fairly decent pictures with a single LED flash. You might have noticed I didn't make a separate camera review of the OnePlus X, and that's because I wanted to make a single stop shop video for anyone who wanted to know about the device before buying. Let's speak about Oxygen OS for a while now. Oxygen OS is what the OnePlus X is running on. The OS is said to be optimized to its hardware and vice versa. The battery optimization, according to me, was just not right. The OS doesn't even have a gallery app, which makes the work a little more difficult. You need to browse the file manager to look at the pictures and videos. The gallery can still be added as a third-party app for sure. Instead of adding a gallery app, OnePlus added a radio application in the phone called OnePlus Radio. Wow, we needed that radio so bad. #sarcasm. It's good to have a radio app, no doubt, but it would have been better if we had a gallery app instead. Coming from Cyanogen OS, the Oxygen OS is not a very customizable thing, but it has a decent amount of customization to it. These customizations include changing the dark theme, changing the tint color, and changing the notification LED color. Oxygen OS 2.0 showed up with a shelf feature on the OnePlus 2, which still prevails in the OnePlus X. However, the shelf feature on the OnePlus X is not as buggy as it was on OnePlus 2. So that's a good update there. Ambient display also persists on the OnePlus X. Well, since I'm a problem finder, I found out that the proximity sensors on the X were very sensitive. I see the ambient display getting on again and again from time to time, even with the slightest or the fastest wave of hand or any other thing near the sensor. That might be a drainer. Right after this point, things might get a little messy regarding the expectations about the phone. The micro SD card expansion is a hassle here. The card is not entirely useful in the OnePlus X as of yet. You can't transfer apps into the SD card, the card doesn't get recognized in the storage menu, and you can't really save your photos or videos from the camera or your Spotify music in your memory card. The good thing is that it gets detected in the file manager and shows all your content of the memory card, so the memory card is accessible but not usable. Maybe this right here can be an option that you can try at your own risk though. It was good to see that OnePlus provided a silicone case in the box for the device, a very nice gesture from OnePlus. Well, again, I will pinpoint the smallest defect with the thing. The case is good and everything, but I noticed that it doesn't have a cutout for the SIM slot. Let's just say you're adding your SIM card in the device on the very first day, and due to the phone's build, you drop it and the glass cracks. Then who cries? The silicone case does provide quite a bit of protection from shocks, at least at the back. However, the good thing is the case has a grippy texture onto the bottom sides for extra grip. An added plus point for the case is that once it has been applied at the front of the phone, it acts as a protection and the touch works perfectly as ever. But it's just foolish. If anyone is geeky enough to try that, well, go ahead, it's safe. I tried it on my own. Well, summing up this review, my days with the Oneplus X were very nice and I loved using this phone as a whole. All the software issues with the device mentioned in the review can be easily fixed with an OTA update. The rest is up for you to decide if you want to get the phone or not. Thanks for watching this review of the Oneplus X. Do subscribe to BigBadroid for more such content. It's me, Sarthak here, signing off, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So see you guys later.